Hello and welcome back to Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread, and today we're going to go over, oh, a reminder. Perhaps you want to like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. And comment down below as always. The video I'm reacting to will be linked down below so you can check it out for yourself. And today's video is called Why You Should Be Paying Attention to or Why You Should Care About the Wayward Realms Kickstarter. And without further ado, I'm just going to say this is something that if you're not aware of, you may want to be aware of. So stick with the video, listen to what information comes out, and then decide whether or not this is something that interests you, because you might be surprised something you may never have heard of may be very interesting based on who's developing it and what they're saying about it. So let's check this out.
The Wayward Realms is an indie-developed open-world RPG game that is in early development and just launched a Kickstarter campaign to raise the funds they need to make this game a reality. But why am I talking about it? Well, the last Kickstarter that I supported was actually Kingdom Come Deliverance, and honestly, I'm going to be supporting this one for pretty much the same reason. There's something about this game that makes me really want to see it happen. And honestly, it comes down to how they describe the game on their own webpage. Here's how they describe it. The Wayward Realms is in early development. Under the direction of Ted Peterson and Julian LeFay, veteran game developers. Actually, they were two of the lead developers behind the team of Arena and Daggerfall, the first two Elder Scrolls games.
Hey, the two guys developing the Wayward Realms, Ted Peterson and Julian LeFay, made Arena and Daggerfall. I think they also did a little bit of work on some of them, one or two of them. I think Ted Peterson did anyways, on further Elder Scrolls games as well, up until around, I believe, leaving somewhere during the development of Skyrim, if I'm not mistaken.
Once Lost Games is creating a new open-world fantasy RPG. This new setting, the Wayward Realms, aims to revivify? I really never know how to say that word. The RPG genre by applying modern development standards and quality of life advancements to the design philosophy of classic role-playing games.
Now, doesn't that actually sound very intriguing? Applying modern development standards and quality of life advancements to the design philosophy of classic role-playing games. I didn't play Arena and Daggerfall, but a lot of you watching probably did. You may remember them fondly, or you may at least have heard of them and realized they had a fond following, and probably a pretty large following at the time. They were groundbreaking games of their time. Classic role-playing games. Taking that, well, let's let the narrator here go on.
Choice, consequence, scope, and role-playing will be experienced like never before, with in-depth class and combat systems, a myriad of complex and dynamic faction relations, and realistically scaled open world where players will experience a new class of game, the Grand RPG. The last bit's a little bit marketing speak, but it's this part. The modern development standards and quality of life advancements to the design philosophy of classic role-playing games. Basically, what I read from this is that they want to make an old-school game with all the modern trimmings and trappings. They basically want a sort of Daggerfall experience, but on a modern engine with modern quality of life features. And honestly, I am here for that. Now, it might be down to massive nostalgia for those sort of games, and I just want to play something similar in a more modern, engine. Or it might be because I've got a soft spot for the small dev teams who are following a dream. But mostly, I just want to see something different. Something that dares to follow its own path rather than treading that well-worn safe path that many games do. Kingdom Come Deliverance did that, and I never regretted supporting that game. Looking at the Steam page for the Wayward Realms, it's flagged as an RPG open world fantasy first person. I've not seen any hints that there will be third-person support, so
That's okay.
those of you who are third-person or Riot, you may want to take note of that. But if I scroll down to where they discuss the game, I'm going to focus on where it says, a massive world. No, really, way bigger than most other games you can think of. Big cities with hundreds of thousands of NPCs,
Wow.
deep, dark, dangerous forests, gigantic mountain ranges, sprawling swamps and marshlands, vast oceans and more, brought to life through dynamic procedural generation.
Can you imagine being in a city or a big city with hundreds or thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of NPCs? You're talking a classic game, classic style game where you're gonna need a good rig to run it. That's pretty exciting. Can you imagine if you had played Skyrim, for instance, and you wandered into Solitude, and instead of there being like 60 people or 70 people in the town, there was like 800 all moving around you and doing things and having their own lives? Well, first of all, Bethesda could not handle that. But can you imagine the realism that you would get from that? I mean, you're everywhere you go, you're bustling and jostling through crowds of people. That would be friggin' amazing. Amazing if they could pull this off.
Now, this might set off some warning bells because of Starfield, but tens of thousands of games have had procedurally generated worlds and have been brilliant. Daggerfall is a classic example of this. Next, we have constantly evolving experience and story. A virtual game master keeps things interesting for you, making other characters and their factions react and plot their next move based on your actions, resulting in no two players having the exact same game experience.
That's cool.
Pretty lofty goals. This is the sort of thing we like to see in our RPGs. The more of it, the better. Real role-playing. You're not playing some pre-baked warrior or mage, but a character class of your design, with customized skills and abilities to craft your own spells, potions, and enchantments. Want to try playing a character who is really, really outside the box? We got you.
Cool.
Playing a character who is really, really outside the box? Why do I feel like that's a direct challenge to me? A world full of...
And by the way, stay tuned to the channel because I will have another video coming out where we interview one of the devs and they get into a lot more detail on that. For instance, you can play someone whose class is something you make up and it's clearly just someone who goes out and collects books. That's your class. So the skills that you're leveling up as you collect books, I mean, you're doing adventuring to get the books, but the skills that you're leveling up are things that would factor into searching for books and maybe why you want the books. More of a scholar and a collector type class. You could do that in this game. In fact, you're encouraged to do something like that in this game. You want to be a blacksmith's assistant in this game. Get hired by a blacksmith and be a blacksmith's assistant. It doesn't hold your hand and force you to be the hero of the game. You can be like an NPC. You could do what you want.
of lore. We call it Wayward Realms for a reason. On the surface, things may have that familiar medieval fantasy look, but dig a bit deeper and there's a lot to learn. From the multiple moons in the sky, to the library's worth of books, to the multiple cultures of each race, there is always something new to discover.
Very cool.
And in actual fact, there is a page on the official site called the Library of Logos that has already got some books listed that you can read, and I'm definitely going to be giving those a read later on.
That's cool.
Now, for the Kickstarter campaign, they have released a gameplay trailer that gives you an idea of how far they have come, what the game will kind of look like, and how it will play. I get a kind of Oblivion vibe from it. Oblivion, but with a lot more atmosphere. Although I said the same thing about Kingdom Come Deliverance. It seems like Oblivion was in that sweet spot of modern and slightly old school RPG vibe. That's what always comes to mind when I see games that try to go old school. The video is low frame rate though, and they're using motion blur So it's probably the game itself being low frame rate rather than the recording, and they're trying to hide that. This isn't too big of a surprise, though, as it is very early days.
Very early.
And optimization is going to be a long ways off. We got to see some climbing, some stealth, magic, and we got to see the dialogue, which definitely looks very old school. I'm talking Morrowind, Daggerfall sort of old school.
Absolutely.
There didn't seem to be any actual voice lines for the protagonist or the NPCs at this point. No way to know if that's going to change, but right now it's best to assume that it probably won't. It's going to be more like Daggerfall and...
Using newer technology, you could easily get AI to do your voices for you. It's not going to be great, but if you want to have it voiced and not just reading, that's one way to go about it. But who knows?
Morrowind. If I'm wrong about that, that's a pleasant surprise.
Ugh.
We saw some first-person horse riding, Kingdom Come
sick.
Deliverance flashback right there. Also a lot of head bob when running as the character. Again, Kingdom Come Deliverance flashback, and I'm really hoping that's going to be optional. Although the game does seem to have an in-game body for the player, and it's possible that the view is locked to the body's animation, which might mean it could be a bit problematic. If there's not an option to disable it, I do hope there's a mod that will disable it. Not a big fan of that level of head bobbing. We saw some combat, and at first it looked kind of basic, but then they showed a first-person dodge animation, and honestly, I found myself kind of liking it. And some of the weapon impacts seemed pretty solid as well, with the sword getting stuck in an enemy's helmet for a second. Not sure why, but I really did like that for some odd reason. And there was kicking and spell combat. All of it looked pretty solid. There's actually something about the combat in general with both swords and bow that, again, had a hint of Kingdom Come Deliverance to it. Not the mechanics or the difficulty of that game, but it looked like the bow had a little bit of wobble at full draw, and there was no crosshair. So it was giving me a kind of semi-hardcore feeling. Not quite as brutal and soul-crushing as Kingdom Come Deliverance could be at first.
I just want to point out, dude, don't say semi and hard right together. Sorry, had to say it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
But a little more engaged and nerve-wracking than something like Skyrim. But that's just the feeling I was getting from the limited footage. All in all, though, I liked what I saw. I thought the game looked pretty atmospheric. I liked the lighting, the dark. It definitely seemed a bit intimidating compared to some of the more modern games.
And when you're looking at a trailer, it's a pre-early access trailer. So the chances the game is going to look and play and feel like what you're seeing is slim. I mean, it's really early. Really early. I mean, it's not even they're getting a Kickstarter that you join the Kickstarter to get into the early access at some point. I mean, anyways, we're early in this process. This is pre-alpha footage, people. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't be like, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. There's a long freaking way to go. This is years away, this game.
Games we play. So yeah, generally very positive, other than the frame rate, the motion blur, and the head bobbing. Now, there are a lot more details regarding their aims, their goals for this game on the Kickstarter page, and I encourage you to go and read that. But of special interest to me were the 4 core game pillars that they listed: scope, choices, consequences, and role-playing. Under scope, they say, the Wayward Realms offers a massive procedurally generated world with plenty of variety in the environments and locales. Dungeons and cities are crafted to feel unique from one another, offering limitless options for layouts and aesthetics.
Yep.
The world itself is ever-changing. Cities can grow, deteriorate, or be entirely destroyed by war. And the sky, landscape, and flora change with the seasons.
Nice.
That's really ambitious.
Yeah.
Likewise, the world building runs deep and thousands of years worth of history through item description, dialogue, lore books, and ancient runestones that dot the land. Players will be able to learn about the world, its history, and various factions, and the people who've chosen to make the archipelago their home.
Cool.
Choices. The Wayward Realms gives players truly meaningful choices with the potential for lasting effects on the world and your experience of it. From your race, equipment, or skills to narrative and gameplay tactics, or your involvement or lack thereof in world events, everything is a choice. Meaningful choices go far beyond what sword you equip and how you choose to talk to an NPC. Our skill system is designed to encourage a wide variety of builds, specializations, and each choice shapes your character in unique ways. The more you invest in a skill, the wider the variety of options available to you in how you might utilize it.
Now, I just want to point out again, if any of this is interesting you, please stick by the channel, because in about roughly a week after this video that you're watching now comes out, I will have another video coming out, and it's going to dive much more deeply into the game with the developer, and it's going to be quite fascinating for you.
I mean, this is all great, and it definitely suggests that there will be a lot of replayability in this game.
A lot.
Consequences.
A lot.
Players' actions will have consequences, both good and bad. There is no such thing as a failed quest in the Wayward Realms. Tell that to some of the people who comment in my videos. Only results and future consequences. Depending on how your choices affected the outcome, whether those are positive or negative will be up to the world to decide and for the player to experience, as every choice leads to some kind of change. You could improve or degrade your ability to join certain factions, the amount and kind of reputation you earn, and how the world reacts to your presence. For some odd reason, this is making me remember my current playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. Don't ask.
I mean, much different than that. Much different than Baldur's Gate 3.
Role-playing. While other RPGs railroad their players into specific roles, the Wayward Realms lets players decide what type of character they wish to play, who they would side with, and what actions that character would actually perform. For this reason, we have chosen to forgo a traditional main quest in order to craft many smaller and more varied narratives for our factions, which will appeal to a broad swathe of character types. The player can further shape their story by how they choose to deal with major world events. World events capitalize there. They can take part and influence the outcomes, or simply stand by and live with whatever consequences these events bring to the world. Finally, our virtual game master will take a character's playstyle and tailor the quests, encounters, and rewards around them, much like a real-life tabletop game master.
Nice.
So no traditional main quest. Lots of factions, lots of faction quests, and these world events. That is very, very interesting. I'm going to be fascinated to see how well that works out.
Now, are any of you now getting intrigued by a game that sounds like it's nothing like games today? I'm getting excited hearing this video again. It's been a while since I saw it originally. It came out a few weeks back.
In theory, it could work out absolutely superbly. You only have to think of games like Skyrim to think, how would the game be if I ignored the main quest? And pretty much most of you are going, yeah, we've all done that. We've all done that 20 times. So it's definitely
better game
doable.
when you ignore the main
I'm not
quest.
going to read any of the other details. There are loads of them.
In my humble opinion, Skyrim is a much better game when you ignore the main quest and just choose to live as a citizen and do your own thing. Thank you, modders.
And I do.
Thank you, Arthmore and Live Another Life mod. Alternate start. Love it.
Encourage you to go and read the entire page. It's pretty exciting for someone like me who is interested in this sort of game, and I'm definitely going to be pledging enough to get early access to the game. Yes, I am. But for you, the viewer, you are going to have to decide whether or not this is something you want to and indeed can support.
Now, I'm going to link this video down below by Gopher, and you can check it out for yourself. And I'm pretty sure that on the video, in the description of Gopher's video, will be links to the Kickstarter and other things, so you could check those out there if and when you are interested. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about this game? And are you willing to stick around and in another week or so watch my other video coming out where we do a deeper dive with a developer into this? What do you think of this? What do you think of the plans? What do you think of the scope of this? Is this something that gets you excited a little bit? Is this sound like something you've heard before, or is it something fairly new, like games today's just aren't doing it this way? And does it remind you of any games you've played in the past as you hear us go through what's in this game and what it's going to be like? Are you interested in Kickstarters? Have you done Kickstarters before? Are you willing to back this project? Are you excited about who these guys are, what they've done before? Let me know down below in the comments. For Miss Valley Entertainment News, I hope I brought you some good stuff today. My name is Dread. We'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.